All right, so let's call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the last meeting's minutes. Everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes. Any changes? All right, can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move approval.
All right, a second. Awesome, thanks. Minutes approved. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we got a vote. We got all in favor. We got to do that.
Yes.
All in favor.
Aye.
All right. All opposed. Gosh, no matter how many times I do this, I can never. Maybe I should do that for every meeting that I run. Have that. All right. All opposed. Nope. All right. Minutes approved. Public appearances for non-agenda items. No one else is here. All right. Next item on the agenda is
Okay. 1 second. Did you ask for roll call?
Do we do that? Roll call?
Yeah, I want to be sure that we have all the members because I don't see you from here.
Oh, okay. So what is that? How does that work? Do we just say?
Members' names off,
Yeah.
and if somebody's here, they say present.
Yes.
So I can do that. So Ryan Estrella,
Present.
Julia Radafrada,
Present.
Nate Farmer Eden,
Present.
Emily Bourne,
Present.
Jay Allen. So it looks like everybody but Jay is present.
Did he excuse himself?
I know we had problems with him with his work schedule, but
Okay.
I did confirm with him this date, and he said he would do his best to try to make it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
As long as we're talking about that, I think folks know, but Jay is our new committee member. He replaced Dorothy as the Alder rep. Jay is a rep of District 3, which among other areas covers North Fish Hatch, one of our H&I neighborhoods. So, so Jay will be the appointee for the next couple of years from the council.
Okay. Thanks, Wade.
Yep.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the agenda review. Any changes to the agenda? All right. Okay. Number 5. Wade, do you want to go through 5A?
Yeah, so it did include a lot of background information in your packet, so I'm just gonna probably kind of read off of all that packet information, and I'll share my screen as well. So again, just so folks know, we met, I think it was March 10th-ish, and the committee made recommendations for funding awards for 2021. I then packaged that information to our council, and they made the final decisions, I believe it was late April 13th, or mid-April. They basically rubber stamped this committee's recommendations. So again, I don't need to go through all those recommendations and approvals again, but basically the awards were approved as recommended by this committee. So again, I think that kind of shows the good work that this committee did in making those recommendations. And I just also want to point out, so those were 7 awards totaling $63,000. You should see that on the screen there, 1 through 7. And then 8 and 9 were actually awards from 2020 that weren't completed per the pandemic. And those funds were carried over. And now the intent is for those groups to complete their projects within the 2021 award cycle. So that's Catholic Multicultural Center. That's a employment or culinary employment training and job placement grant. And then New Bridge is a senior focused group that's going to work with our senior center to really encourage Latinx, Hispanic engagement, via senior center activities. So those 9 projects will be due again at basically the end of this year, early next year, January 31st, 2022. And I have been in touch with all those organizations, as I do every year, to confirm their award, to explain requirements, and just to set up, the next year in terms of us staying in communication with those those awardees. So that is, yeah, pretty much my report on, I guess it's 2021 status. So any questions or comments on any of that?
All right. Any questions? No? Okay, 5B. Project funding award closeout summaries for
Yeah,
2020.
and this again is, we kind of started this last year, kind of a quick, very brief annual report based on, what happened last year with awards. So literally, normally we close out projects, again, in early part of the year, but with the pandemic, we increased the deadlines for project completion to basically early May of this year. So, we're now into late June, so projects have been wrapping up, and I've been getting the final reporting and all those forms I need to close out projects. So just quickly, I don't know if I'm gonna run through all this with you. I think you probably have had a chance to read this, but, Badger Prairie Needs Network, project completed. They are always a great partner with our grant program, and it did so again this year, did a really good job of kind of scrambling and really expanding their services, based on pandemic needs. Big Brothers Big Sisters, again, a great partner, multi-year partner with us. They did a great job in their project and reporting. Boys and Girls Club, I just want to point out they aren't seeking a full award. Basically, they had their project consisted of kind of dental education, healthy habits for mostly youth. Obviously, with the pandemic, they couldn't do a lot of the things they were hoping to do. So they are only asking for a partial reimbursement of about $3,300. So we can talk later about what that means for next year. Again, Catholic Multicultural Center, they'll be working on the project this year, so we'll close them out early next year. Girls on the Run, we gave a small award to. They had a lot of other funds. They did a nice job in their project as well. Latino Academy, again, a multi-year partner. They do really good work over there. They were able to meet their goals with computer training and also CDL training for our Latinx Hispanic community. Newbridge, again, they didn't complete the project. They'll be working this year to complete. So looking forward to closing that out early next year. And then Unidos was our last awardee. Again, they were able to complete project and outcomes as identified in their applications. So yeah, quick summary of 2020 projects and closeouts. I do want to point out that staff has been asked to present kind of an HNI annual report to our Common Council, July 29th. Let me confirm that date, actually. I believe it's July 28th. So basically what I will kind of prepare materials, I will present at what's called the Committee of the Whole, which is again our meeting of our council. Certainly, and I think at that presentation, we'll talk about all aspects of the HNI, but I will also focus on the grant program, and that is where I will have awardees from 2020, potentially 2021, come and kind of talk about their projects. So that's where they'll kind of do a report back to the city on specific projects. And certainly I want to invite the committee to that meeting. Again, that'll be 7 o'clock, July 28th. Remote attendance will be an option, so I'll pass on information as I get it regarding that meeting. So I think that's pretty much all I have on 5B.
Any questions for Wade?
Yes, can I speak? Ryan.
Yeah, sorry, I muted
Okay,
myself.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So wait for the cow meeting on July 28th. I know that we are going to discuss other topics to date and maybe move forward some possible resolution about the composition of the team, the commission. So also it will be great to speak out about the future of the commission, okay, and the composition too. But I know that the topic is coming in the agenda, so maybe I am planning to shut up now and then speak later, okay? So,
Okay.
but I don't want to forget my thought.
Yep, yep, we'll talk about that, yep, as a next agenda, or a
Okay.
future agenda item, and yeah, I will be, and that's where maybe at that item, we can talk about timing of that, because, yeah, we can certainly, present it in July, and then I guess I'll get direction from the council or whoever on when they want to have something come forward for their vote, so, yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna, when that topic comes to discuss, I'm gonna give you my input, okay? Okay.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions? All right, next item on the agenda, 5C, 2022 grant program budget request and potential program modifications, improvements.
Yeah, and
Go ahead,
again,
please.
this is kind of something we started last year. Basically, I kind of put together a memo that outlined, since the program's been around, what has been our annual allocation from the city, as well as our annual demand, and then the award amounts that we make. So we started in 2017. That was a bit of an anomaly that year. We didn't have a lot of regulations in place that we have now. So those numbers are a little skewed. But basically what I've done is I've averaged, just bear with me, I'm panning down. I've averaged the 2018 to 2021 demand in terms of the applications that we see, and approximately $119,000 in demand over those, I guess it's 4 years. Traditionally, you know, kind of looking at what the city awards, I think we started at 50 grand in 2017, 2018, 2019 was about the same. And then in 2020, we did kind of bump it up a little bit to about $63,000 plus. We had, and again, every year we have a little bit left over for various reasons that there's no guarantee that that goes back into the H&I grant pot, but I make that request, and then every year thus far it has been put back into that pot. So kind of what that means for this year is maybe starting with 2021. So I guess what I'm asking for today is a discussion on potential budget requests for this year, and then once the committee gives me that, I will take that to my department head, and then we will put that in our budget request to be ran through various staff, and then ultimately council for their approval. There's a lot of happenings in that budget process, so things get changed and numbers change, but again, traditionally what happens is this committee will make a recommendation, and that will then go in our draft planning department budget, and then go through those steps. So again, last year, I believe the committee might have requested 100 grand. What made it into the budget was 63 grand, which was pretty much staying true to what happened in the previous year, 2020. So as it relates to this year, I do want to just mention that we will likely have about, if you can follow my 2022 line item here. So the first question mark will be the budget ask. The second item there is that leftover Boys and Girls Club funds that there's no guarantee that that'll go back into the H&I pot, but if history is precedent, then it should, and I will make that request as well. And then I want folks to remember too, we still have about $11,000 that was designated for this Fitchburg fund, which has kind of morphed into something different now, and we can talk more about that. But that could potentially be used this year yet, and we can talk about that, or that could potentially be carried over and used next year. So I guess the gist of it is we have a potential to carry over around $17,000. And then, so that's, I guess, part one. And part two is the actual new request, which again has averaged anywhere from $50,000 to about $63,000 historically. So With that, maybe
Pardon my interruption, Wade. Just a quick question. That 11,000, was that tied into Alder Maldonado's request? Was that where that came from?
yeah, and we'll talk more about that when I give it other H&I updates, but basically we had, I'm trying to remember all the math here, but yeah, we had a city pot for the Fitchburg Fund, and then we had a United Way pot, monies that they raised on our behalf. So the United Way pot went to a study, a community engagement study for a neighborhood center in the Verona Road West neighborhood. So that was about $3,000, but the city part of that was not to go there. So basically, what I foresee is we can roll it over. I believe we could probably roll it over into next year's just bigger pot of money for the grant program, with maybe earmarking it for a youth education grant, because that was the original focus of the Fitchburg Fund. Or I could start down that road this year and try to, put out essentially an RFP for a youth education organization to do a project in our H&I neighborhood for $11,000. So again, we could kind of use it this year, or we could roll it over into next year. Subject to, if we use it this year, I think we've got all our approvals. If we roll it over into next year, we'd probably have to get some internal approvals.
So if we use, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the other thing that we need to remember is by 2022, we are gonna have the town of Madison annexation.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think we need to allocate money, for that neighborhood. People can say, well, but the town of Madison is gonna come at the end of, in October 31st is the annexation day. But I think we need to start working before the annexation with that area. And I think that I will propose that, when the budget amount that we can request be increased, because we need to consider this new neighborhood, Southdale neighborhood. And we need to be proactive as a group and start assessing the needs of that area in 2022 before the annexation, no wait after the annexation date. So that one is gonna be my recommendation.
Good point, Julian. Just for folks that aren't as familiar with City of Fitchburg politics and happenings, what Julie's talking about is we will be incorporating a portion of what's called the town of Madison next year. So basically, the town as a governmental body is going away, and it's being absorbed by City of Fitchburg and City of Madison. So the area we're getting is the Southdale neighborhood, which is just south of the Beltline, off of Rimrock Road. If folks know where Badger Rock School is. And I can do people want to see a map, or are they okay with, do they know where I'm talking about, or? Oh, Ryan, are you okay?
Yeah, I think we're all
Yep.
familiar.
Yeah,
with.
so basically, about, I think, maybe 1,500 new residents. The neighborhood exhibits a lot of characteristics as our other three H&I priority neighborhoods. So when we did develop our strategic plan for the H&I back in 2019, we did understand that if and when Southdale became part of Fitchburg, it would be the fourth H&I neighborhood. So yeah, to Julia's point, we will be spreading funds to one more neighborhood. So yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Emily.
Okay, so I had two questions. Do we have a sense of what the current populations are for the three neighborhoods that we're supplying now? I was thinking that could be a nice way for us to estimate, increased budget. And then my second question was, out of the proposals that we have gotten in the past, I know some of them don't align with the H&I priorities. Do we have a sense of how much on average they do? And like if we could, afford to support all the ones that do align with those priorities, how much that would be?
Yeah, to your first question, I don't have the exact numbers, population numbers off the top of my head. They are in the strategic plan.
Okay.
But if I do remember correctly, as of like 2010,
Mhm.
I believe it was either 60 or 40% of the entirety of the city's population was in those neighborhoods. So we're talking 10,000 plus people at a minimum, if not more.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I can dig that up, Emily, maybe send it to the folks after the meeting. But yeah, we're talking a sizable chunk of the city's population, and using North Fishhatch as an example, that neighborhood is growing in population. I realize it's, maybe more market rate residential development, but point being is those neighborhoods are still growing.
Yeah.
And then there is also, there was a senior low-income housing project that went in there recently, which I'm not accounting for when I just talked about the population number. So yes, a sizable chunk of the city's population is in those neighborhoods. To your second question, I think in the past couple of years, as we've refined our grant program project categories, as well as built partnerships with those nonprofit groups, I think we've seen, in my opinion, a higher quality of application that is more in tune with what our H&I priorities are, just because, we've done a good job at educating people and they know what we're all about. So, as an example, we received 173,000 last year. If I remember correctly, we gave 0 full awards. You know what I mean? Like every
Right.
award we gave was like a half award.
Mhm.
So just off the top of my head, we probably could have funded at $120,000 last year, and felt really good about what we were supporting. Does that kind of help address your question, or?
Yeah, it does. I remember that there were a couple ones that we had talked about as a group that they had fallen outside. So, but that is good to think about, that we supported only with partial grants. So
Right.
there is really room to grow if we wanted to.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking we made 7 awards, and I think 5 of those were half. So again, if I'm just taking what our awards times 2, so that gets us over 100,000.
Yeah.
And there might have been a couple, and part of this too was, certainly as a grant program, we want to use the funds we're allocated, and we want good applications. But I think where I'm going with this is, I think stuff that we got this year, we didn't fund. There was applications we got this year that we didn't fund because there was just some other better applications, whereas we may have funded those a couple of years ago. So I think just the volume and the quality of applications is getting better, and I think it is becoming competitive to a degree, but I don't think it's at a point yet where it's we're not turning people off from applying or anything like that. So
Okay.
I have
I
a
just-
question, Ryan. Who is the
Okay.
other person connected? Seth Smith. Who is the person that is connected to?
yeah, so Sedgwick is our intern.
Oh,
He's
okay,
our
okay.
planning intern.
Okay.
So he's actually really. Hey, Seth, do you do you want to do a quick hello or I know you're.
Yeah.
Not,
Hold on 1 second. I
Okay.
apologize.
Yeah, because I say, who is the person?
Yeah, no, and Sed's a recent graduate of UWM and very interested in the kind of things that the H&I is all about. So
Oh, okay.
I asked
Yeah,
him to attend today and just kind of listen to our conversation. So yeah, Sed, if you want to just do a quick intro, if you're there.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out my video settings. Okay. I'm putting a background on. I apologize.
You too, if your video's not working, so no problem. Well, there he
Okay,
is.
perfect. Well, hi everybody. I'm Seth Smith. I am the planning intern currently with the city of Fitchburg.
Okay.
I just had to park because I had to pick up my wife. But I so yeah, I'll be working with the Healthy Neighborhoods initiative as well as the neighborhood navigators and help support programming and the targeted neighborhoods. So
Okay, welcome.
thank you.
Nice to
Thank you.
meet you.
Welcome.
And is that Lake Medona in the background set, or are you really out there?
It is actually. They just had a new development.
Right. Well, good. No,
Welcome,
yes,
son.
Sad's been great. We've actually, as a department, I think, learned from some of his experiences as well. So, yeah, looking forward to continuing to work with him, and I think you'll probably see him again over
Okay.
the summer as H&I stuff pops up. So,
Okay.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Cedric. Good to meet you.
Thank you. And who was that? Who spoke last?
That was me, Ryan Estrella. I'm the chair of
Okay,
the committee.
so Ryan, we have met before. By the way.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So it's nice to
you-
talk to you again.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Definitely.
And welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
I do have a question, Wade, real quick about, so there's about 10,000, there's more than 10,000, but it gives us an idea of the amount of people that Fitchburg is taking in. What, just as a reference, so like North Fish Hatchery, what is the population there about? Do you know? Does anyone know?
Yeah, and I just was doing some other stuff today on that, so I do have that number in my head. I think it's about 5,000.
Wow.
But again, that was 2010.
Yeah.
And Julie,
Holy
I
cow.
know we've talked, I can't remember the amount of new residential units since then, but I would say
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
500 to 1,000 more people up there. And I think more on the way. Again, not all are, some are middle-class young professionals, but
Right.
yeah, it is a growing neighborhood for sure.
The only thing that can I speak, Ryan? I want to for Emily, that she's new. The other thing, Emily, there is a report that United Way of Dane County put together a couple of years ago called Alice Report, where it shows the level of poverty in each municipality in Dane County. And in Fitchburg, believe it or not, we have a 40% of poverty.
Yeah.
And all of that poverty is allocated in the neighborhood under the umbrella of the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. So that one is something that we need to remember when we work about allocation of funds or amenity of, that how we are. Even and also I want to mention to you that I read a good article in the new National Geographic edition.
Yeah.
Inequality in tree, how in area of low income neighborhood there is a lack of tree and how it's affecting
Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
and and it's incredible. I didn't thought about that, but I would recommend you to read that about, because this is other thing that we need to consider when we talk about the healthy neighborhood neighborhoods is
Yeah.
About the inventory of tree and because they are an asset, and how they how important it is for those low income areas to have that shade. Eventually now with all climate change and we can see what is happening in the East Coast, in the West Coast with all the heating, so this is something I want to mention that we need to consider too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you know this, but I used to live in New York and I lived there for about 15 years, and the Parks Department there is very very progressive and really up on this, and really looking. They have heat maps of the entire city, and they're working, and they have a program to plant over 1 million trees within the city to address those types of problems, because it's amazing in terms of like the heat, in terms of the air quality. It just, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I'm totally with you, and I think that's a great some great thinking that we could bring to Fitchburg.
Yeah.
Yep, and if I could just add on to that too, I have had, I don't know if folks know Anna Healy, she's our city forester, but we have had really good discussions about a lot of the things that you both were just talking about really creating a better landscaped environment in these neighborhoods, because that's one of the H&I pillars. And then I think we're going to be updating our parks plan in the next, well, probably 6 months. And I know Anna's really keen on being very specific about increasing our canopy, our tree canopy by like specific percents. So yeah, I think those things will be, they'll be happening over the next, 5-10 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I heard that there's also a meeting coming up about the types of trees. So we have a good like mix of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we've actually got a tree advisory committee, kind of like this committee that Anna oversees, that their whole focus is trees and plants. Yep. So
That's great.
I have a question, Ryan.
Okay, go ahead,
So,
Julia.
regarding the $11,000 from the Fitchburg fund, I think when we decided way back about this 11,000 was the idea to allocate these funds to District 1 and to youth program. And I think my personal opinion is that we need to keep that because that one was the intent of the money. And I was very disappointed with the council didn't approve this money to fund the study for the teen center. But the money is still there, and I think we need to keep it for the what it was the intent of the use of these funds. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait, I don't want it to roll over for next year and put it in the whole pile. You know what I mean? I don't know.
What I did have a question about that. So if we did ask for an RFP this year, then they would need to spend it by when?
Well, yeah, and that's a good thought. I guess if staff would make a recommendation on this, I would probably recommend that we request to roll it over into next year, but keep it earmarked for what Julia just talked about. Because then I think what we can do is keep it in line with the broader cycle of our grant program. We can kind of call it out specifically when we advertise, but I think then it's easier from my perspective. And I think it'll be easier to get applicants as well, because they'll be anticipating our broader cycle. So yeah, I would recommend rolling it over, but keeping it earmarked, and then, distributing it next year via a project.
I would be on board with that recommendation too. Any thoughts on what the ask would be to the council? Go ahead, Julia.
Okay, so I think because we have a new, since we have a new neighborhood, we need to increase the amount, you know what I mean? So I will say that to be safe, we should go between $75,000 and $100,000. I don't think that the mayor is gonna allow $100,000, but at least, 75,000 should be like a safe amount because we have a new neighborhood and we don't know, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So it shouldn't be 50,000 because we are gonna have a fourth neighborhood. So for sure it should be more, but to be safe, I would say 75 to 100, I don't know.
I was thinking another thing we could take into the equation is so last year we requested, and Wade, correct me if I have this wrong, we requested 100K and then we got 63. So we could also think about the differential of how much we're likely to get shaved off.
Yeah, and again, just a staff thought based on my experience with this, and Julia, you have more experience with this than I do, but I like the idea of 75. I think it's reasonable, it's justifiable. I do understand the point about asking higher intentionally, and then with the expectation of settling a little bit lower. But I think that was, again, I don't want to speak for the committee, but I think that was tried last year, and it didn't really, work out that way. So, to me, I think 75 is a real nice request that could be justified, and so that's staff's 2 cents.
And I want to mention another comment. The city is gonna receive some ARPA fund, for the relief. And I think maybe we should consider that in the future, how these funds are gonna be used. I think the council is gonna have a say on how those funds are gonna be, but we should recommend also to allocate some funds to the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, you know what I mean? So, so that one is something for another conversation. I can send you the document or how the ARPA document, so how municipality can use the funds. But I think we need to consider that too, you know, that the areas where we are, we want to help and invest are areas where most of the people have suffered a lot of hardship due to COVID, because most of people living in those neighborhoods, they were working in industry were very affected by COVID. So that one is my,
Julia,
So,
where
Julia-
are those funds coming from?
This is for the federal government,
Okay.
the $3 million that
Okay,
the city is gonna get.
okay.
So Julia, just sort of ask a question on the back end of that. What was the dates again for when the new money is supposed to be allocated, or when it's going to be brought before the committee for them to be able to decide for allocation? Is that happening going into 2022?
Yeah, for the budget, yes.
Okay. So we would then, in theory, be able to put our request in well before this happened. I just want to make sure that they don't assume that we're going to be able to get extra money and then not approve us for the 75 or whatever it is that we would like to request.
No, yes, the process is that Wade is asking this because I think that all the departments are working in the 2022 budget right now. They're going through that process.
Okay.
And this is why Wade needs this information, because he needs to bring it forward to his department. So they need to put it in the recommended amount. And then the mayor decided if he say, yeah, it's fine, 75, he's gonna, when he prepare his budget, he's gonna determine, yes, we move forward at 75, or say no. And then by budget time, the council will vote or will bring amendments, but it's gonna be around November when we vote for the budget for next year.
So Julia, to Nate's point, when does that federal money come?
Oh, the federal money is coming. It's gonna come in 2 installments. I think, I don't remember when. It's during one installment is coming this summer, and then the other one in a year after that, and then we have like a 3-year or 4-year to use the money, something
Okay.
like that. So this is why Misty is putting together like a plan how we are gonna use the money.
Okay,
And because there also, as you know, we have a lot of issue with flooding and other broadband, and there is also a lot of money in grants. So we need to be strategically, how
so,
to use the money, because we can get grants for other projects instead of using the money. So
right.
yeah.
So I guess this is just a question for the committee. So would a potential scenario be that we might have another committee? So once that money comes to us, or we know how much exactly, would this committee want to meet to figure out if we want to make requests for those funds? You know what I mean? Versus like right now, trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Because again, if we're really talking about broadening the HNI and this committee, and if there is funds available, there could be some other, besides the grant program, there could be potentially some places to make requests for that Fed money as well.
Do we know when budgets for the Fed money will be made? Like, is Misty's drawing up like a skeleton plan right now, or when are they going to be asking for input from various stakeholders?
I don't know, because we are the last, according to the last council meeting, Misty told us that she's still figuring out all the rec from the federal government. It's not finalized on how to use it, how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the city is still trying to, the final document is not out there yet, with the final regulation of how to use these funds. So maybe, I don't know, maybe by the end of the summer we will have an idea, so we don't know.
Okay.
Oh, I think we usually have a fall committee meeting for this committee to kind of talk about, setting up for the next year. So, assuming we have that fall meeting, that could be a good time to once things are kind of figured out on the city's financial end, we could have a more detailed discussion about could some of that money potentially, come to the H&I.
Yeah, I think Wade, I think you kind of hit it right on the head. I think in time, coming up with another committee, whether it be separate or, parts of us involved in it to figure out where that money can get allocated to is definitely going to be needed, especially with the fact that Fitchburg is growing. I mean, also the navigators side of things is growing. I mean, it just only makes sense with me being seated on this for, I don't know, what 4 going on 5 years, something around there, something crazy. It just only makes sense for us to try to, sort of choose our words carefully here, expand and sort of diversify the funds in which we have, because eventually we might not get the request as we've seen in the past of what we would like. But if we could have other funds from other places be able to help and assist, we could be able to do way more with what's placed in front of us, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it sounds like, we talked about making a request for 75 with the expectation. No, Wade, you're going to be the one presenting this to the council, right?
What happened, I talked with I basically pass on the information to my supervisor, and we will get whatever number the committee wants in our draft department budget. But then that's kind of where my role ends. Then the department head pitches it to the mayor and the finance director and other folks, and then they make some tweaks, and then it gets presented to the council. So, yeah, it's sausage making, I guess, Ryan. But whatever you guys tell me you want, I will take it up as far as I can take it to get that request.
Well, my question was, so whoever's presenting it to the council, will they be giving some background into why we're asking for 75?
Yeah.
I mean, just in
Yes,
terms of the addition.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ryan, when the proposed budget for 2022 is out there, we will know exactly how much money the mayor decided to put in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And if the mayor decided not to go with the 75,000, I, as an alder, and Jay Allen too, can bring amendment to the budget, and we can bring back the amount, and then we need to have a support documentation of why it's so important, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe I will need to have your support, come and talk, you know what I mean? But that one is all about in the budget time, yes.
Can I ask Julia? So there were, Emily had suggested asking for more on the thinking that they were gonna trim it down a bit, what we request. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think 75 a more reasonable request than we did last year? Do you think that has a good chance of passing? I know.
I know the next year budget is going to be very difficult because we have the town of Madison annexation and we have all the extra cost. And then, but we are adding another neighborhood to this. So we need to put more money.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that one is a legit, ask, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So
yeah,
we'll see.
I just did a couple of back of the napkin numbers, and I looked at the H&I strategic plan, and based off of the 2010 census, right now we have just under 12,000 people in our 3 neighborhoods, and then the 1,500 people, that represents about a 13% uplift in the numbers. So if you take a 13% uplift off of the 63K that we had this time, it gets us to 71,000. So I think 75 makes a lot of sense, especially, knowing that those 2010 numbers are old. I'm wondering and Julia, I would, really defer to you of like, how do we get the 75 that we want? Like, it doesn't make sense strategically to ask for more, knowing that we might get a haircut, or do we come in and say like, based off of our numbers and our analysis, like this is a really reasonable ask. And
Yeah.
if you cut it, you're not being reasonable, sort of thing.
No, but this is,
know.
I understand, Emily, because it happened every year that we try to increase this and we get.
Right.
But I think Wade can put together that information. Maybe you can put it together and draft it. So Wade can go to his supervisor and say, "This is why. This is the reason that we decided to go to 75. We put some number behind, and then if the mayor decided not to approve this, we have the amendment process too to the budget, so we can bring it forward and see what the rest of the council think. You know what I mean? But so I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it might. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking too. I do get, I get nervous about asking for the exact amount that we want, but I think hopefully if the council looks back on our previous requests and sees this one as like, okay, we're going to try and be, a little more reasonable with this request, knowing that, that there are budget constraints and everything. Maybe it might make sense to try and just go for the 75. We just land on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll take our offer as a reasonable request.
I think it's a very reasonable request, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I mean,
I think
considering
so.
the amount of, I think it's more than
I think
reasonable.
we could ask even more.
That's being generous.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's pared down, and
Yeah.
I think it's very defensible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
Yeah,
Wade,
I
or
was
no?
gonna say that'd be good to do a motion on that, I think. Yep.
Okay, can we have a motion to request 75,000 from the city council for the H&I?
Nate, did you want to say anything before we motion?
Sorry.
Sorry. No.
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just, you look like you might be like.
I was unmuting myself because I was going to make a motion to approve the 75.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, go ahead, Nate.
I would like to make a motion to approve for the 75,000.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Awesome, Emily, second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion approved to ask the council for 75,000 for the H&I grant.
Okay, can I ask a comment to Wade? Wade, when you put together the presentation for the cow meeting, can you put this in for the funding allocation in a graph? So we can see, you know what I mean?
The funding,
Like in
the
a-
what? Oh, put this memo in a graph?
No, when you had 2017, 18, 19, the demand, we can put the demand so the council can see that there is a huge demand for this, how it's growing through the years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More visual.
Yep,
I don't know.
yep, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess part
All right.
two of that, so let me make sure I'm following the agenda here. Yeah, so part two of that, I guess 5C we're still on is, again, potential 2022 program changes, improvements, and I will, again, we'll have a fall committee meeting, and that's where we can kind of finalize this stuff. But I just wanted to get you guys a sense of what I'm thinking about for next year, and then certainly if you have ideas for our next committee meeting, talk to me before then, and I can get those kind of in the mix as well. But as of now, again, I think we're in a pretty good place with our program. We're every year, I think we're making some improvements, and I feel pretty good about where we're at. So just, kind of some minor logistical stuff that will make probably my job more streamlined, just more efficient. I think the idea of moving to right now we have a fillable Word form, you can type into it, but maybe just more of a standardized online application form that, I could work with IT on and makes it easier for me and also for our applicants. So that's just idea one. Idea two is right now we don't ask for the proposed number of H&I residents to be served in our app form. We ask for it in reporting, but we don't ask for it in the app. So I was thinking of just kind of tying those loose ends up there. Then we have a real good idea of matching outcomes to intent. And then letter C is one thing I've really noticed that's really been a kind of a drag on my workload, is just this idea of standardizing invoices and expenses templates. You know, everyone gets me reporting in a little bit of a different manner as it relates to expenses. So I spend a lot of time tracking down receipts and trying to figure out where stuff is located. So, and this has been on my list for years. I just haven't had time to get to it, but I think this year I will make it a priority. Again, easier for me, but also for the applicants as well. And then I guess letter D, this came up this year. You know, I guess I'm looking for some direction from the committee. So I think the question is, you know, personnel costs. Right now, we allow those as, I think the language is 20% of the award can go towards personnel cost. So as an example, a $10,000 award, 2,000 of that can go to personnel. Now, what's happened this year is we gave a $9,000 award, and so the award for $9,000, they only asked for about $3,300 to be reimbursed, but they were still asking for the $1,800 in personnel, which obviously, and the way it was written, I think that's a valid request, but I just want to be clear because what they're actually asking for in reimbursement is obviously much greater than a 20%. Are folks following me there on that? And we don't have to get into the weeds on this now, but these are just little things that come up as I'm administering the program that I just want to make sure that the committee is aware of, and we're all on the same page, you know, as we continue to grow the program. So again, these are just ideas that I have. Certainly if you want any clarifying questions now, we can talk about it. I don't want to get, again, too far in the weeds on this now. But, and then if you have any other ideas on other improvements, you know, we can certainly, you know, talk about those as well, so.
So then wait, real quick, just sort of shorthand, what you're thinking or what you're trying to sort of, I don't even know if hint is the proper term, but it'd be more so 20% of the actual used amount versus the amount requested is what you're hoping that we could maybe get towards?
That's the right approach, Nate. I'm just saying that I think there's two options here. You know, I think the option you just described probably makes it harder on the applicant, but might stay truer to the intent of what we're trying to get at with that personnel cap. So, but yeah, that's the gist of the issue.
So in my other life, when I was working with CDBG, working with the Latino Chamber and with some of the grants, you know, most of the grants, they have a cap on, you know, you need to provide a budget on how you're going to use the funds, okay? And if you have something change in your budget, you have, if there are more than 10% of variance in the budget, you need to explain, you know, you need to, in writing, you need to explain why you are using more than you're supposed to use, you know what I mean? So you need to, how do you say it? Oh, I forgot. Okay. And I know that, you know, we had this conversation last year when we increased the amount of personnel, you know, the percentage. And I know we know that there should be personnel because someone is running the program, you know what I mean? I think the cap that we have at 20% is a good percentage. But then you are asking if that cap should be of the amount that they request or the amount that they use. But they should use the amount that they request most of the time.
Right, and you're right, Julia. So to your first point, yep, we have a budget variance requirement. You know, they can do up to 10% of budget changes without my, they let me know, and then if they want to do more than 10%, they need my approval. But this is more about, they stayed true to their budget for personnel. They just didn't ask for the full dispersal of the award. So 1,800 is what they're asking for. That was 20% of their award, which was 9,000. but they've only asked to be reimbursed at 3,300 total, 1,800 of which is personnel. So they're staying true to their budget line items. They're just not asking for a full reimbursement. Then that skews the percent of personnel. Does that make sense?
It does. What, in terms of their rationale for only wanting a portion of the award, like, was that because of like COVID? Okay, because like with that, it's,
So
I kind of see it, and I see it as like, well, personnel is kind of a fixed cost for them,
yeah,
or it can be more of a fixed cost than
Yes.
some other ones.
yes.
And so with that, like,
And I totally
it
think
does
it's,
it place an undue burden on the people that we're granting this to, if things that are completely outside of
Right.
their control
Right.
change. I feel like it's kind of on a case by case basis. Like if they totally decided to change their program for no apparent reason, like no outside forces, then yeah, it seems kind of weird. But if it's something like COVID, I can see it.
yeah. Yep, and you're 100% right, and I feel like in this case, there was extenuating circumstances. But again, I'm just trying to, safeguard the committee and myself for future
Definitely.
scenarios that may be a little bit more, not as black and white, and how do we administer those consistently and make sure we're staying true to intent. So, yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think, well, I guess since they just asked for like a portion of it, they probably couldn't have made up like, I'm just wondering if they could have like shrunk the portion of personnel costs and then made up like the difference with costs for other stuff, but they probably asked for everything they thought they could get.
Yes, and this
Yeah.
group is very experienced in the grant world, so I think they probably explored all avenues and then probably interpreted it the way that we're interpreting it. So, yeah. Okay, well, again, these are just things that maybe I'll flesh out for the next meeting. Any other thoughts on other improvements that, things the committee's been thinking about, or ways to make your life easier, or anything like that?
I love the idea of a standardized online form and getting an estimate from them about the number of people served and the expenses template. Like that just sounds really smart.
Yeah, I agree with those 2 points. Will that change an online form? Will that change how we see how it's presented to us?
I hope it makes it a lot easier, Ryan, because I literally spend like a couple of days trying to get everything together, and then my PDFs get corrupted, and it's a nightmare. So yeah, hopefully it'll be easier for you guys. I don't quite know what that'll look like yet, but that'll be a goal. So
Okay. And then, yeah, to Emily's point, for B, yeah, the one thing that I was somewhat disappointed in with the NIDOS, from their results was that they could only show that 8 members, was it 8 residents in Fitchburg received assistance, although it did say that, they couldn't account for all the folks that may have called their crisis line. But this would help maybe clarify what numbers we're looking at.
And in their defense too, one of their big project outcomes, as identified in their app, was building their organization, capacity building. So they recruited new board members, and they did marketing and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, point taken.
Right.
Where
and I'm a huge supporter of NIDOS, so I just want to make that clear too.
Where did we end at the end of 2019 with allowing for folks that are, or organizations, I should say, to be able to come in and do like a face-to-face presentation to talk a little bit about their organization? Were we ever going to move forward with that? Are we still giving or allowing people to go ahead and do that to give us more information? Or are we just going to fully leave it digital now?
Oh, you mean like having folks come in and present on their application before they get an award, kind of in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We had talked about it in 2019.
Yeah. I think we did. I can't remember all the details of that conversation. I think we ultimately decided against it in terms of just creating another burden on the applicants. Certainly if it gets to a point where we just get so many applications and we really need, another piece of the puzzle to kind of make decisions, we could explore that, but
Okay.
at this point as staff, I feel comfortable not having to do that extra piece. And I think we did talk about it at length, maybe a year ago or so. So yeah,
Okay.
Maybe we see what happens with with the town coming in to Fitchburg, and we see how much if our the amount that we get increases. Maybe that's something we can think about for the following years.
yeah, and I guess, in my opinion, that would probably be like maybe a selective invitation, like we wouldn't invite everybody, but maybe we would have a first cut or something, because that could get pretty lengthy too with 15 applicants or whatever it might be. So, but yeah, we can play that by ear.
Right, sounds
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Yep, I'm fully supportive in whatever direction. I can see, the pros and cons on both sides. And these meetings already take quite some time, and having, 20 different applicants trying to present at 15 to 30 minutes a pop could, but, I can also see the positive sides of it
Yeah.
too. So,
And I guess one last thought, I have heard, I like to get feedback too, whether it's positive or negative, just so we can improve. And I do ask the organizations that I really trust and have worked with, what they like about our program. And I think they really like the, kind of the level of application requirements we have. It's enough to be accountable and objective, but it's not overly burdensome on them. I had one organization share an application with me from another local group, and they just were throwing their hands up in the air because it was so much work. So that's, something to think about too, just creating, I see your point, we want to get enough information to make good decisions, but how do we also walk that fine line of not scaring people away because of regulations? And, our wards are relatively small, maybe compared to some other regional entities, so things to think about.
I mean, and not just that. I was also thinking, sort of going on the wavelength of, even if we did it in the middle of everything and invited those who are already awarded to be able to come in and let us know how their projects are going, or if we put a spin on it and utilized our navigators to let them come back and check out some of these programs and come and sort of give us, because I know for myself, and I can't speak for all of us, but our day-to-day office jobs, we don't always get the opportunity to be able to venture out and see everything that's going on and the operations. Plus, this would also give some insight, just like how you were saying you got feedback on the process of the application, but this could also be the implementation of the process itself and how they're going and what we can be able to do to assist while it's still moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. We'll let's continue to think through that. Yep.
All right, wait, is that everything for changes?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Okay, 5D, potential committee personnel and scope changes. Was that? We didn't go over that yet, right?
Nope.
No.
That's yep. So again, this kind of stems from, I think, an interest from the council and really solidifying this committee. Potentially kind of broadening the scope of what the committee does. So if folks remember, this is what's called an ad hoc committee. So basically, mayors can appoint ad hoc committees. They're usually for a certain amount of time, for like a certain project, and then they kind of go away. If folks remember, the H&I really was, it started as a kind of a pilot program. It really was just let's try this thing and see how it goes. And it was, the grant program, it was navigators, it was facility planning and other things as well. And that stuff is all solidified in our H&I strategic plan, which I think folks have seen. But this committee was really formed just to oversee the grant program. So again, we've been at it about 3 or 4 years, pretty much focused on grants. I try to keep you guys abreast of other H&I happenings, but really your dictate is just for the grant program, at this point in time. So again, with all that background in mind, I think there's interest in making this committee what we'll call a standing committee permanent, which I think is a great idea and something I was hoping for, and now we're here. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna make, again, some recommendations for how that potential committee personnel and scope changes could look. And then you guys can discuss. And then I think the thought here is maybe for the committee to come up with a consensus on what the committee will look like moving forward. And then I will probably figure out where that needs to go internally. And then ultimately maybe to the council as an informational item, and then ultimately back to them as a decision item. So I guess with that, before I get into some recommendations, any questions on any of that? Okay, so I
Go
basically
ahead,
have,
Julie. Oh.
Oh.
Did you have a question, Julie?
Yeah, so do you see if we have any input from this, or you're gonna go one by one?
I'll lay it all out there, then you guys, then we can dig into it.
Now?
What's that?
We can, oh, you're gonna
Yeah, let me
explain
just,
this?
I'll just
Okay.
introduce them, yep, and then you guys
Okay.
can discuss. So again, I basically have five five recommendations more or less. First one, again, would just be to change it from ad hoc to a standing committee, as I kind of mentioned. Second one, again, we've kind of discussed, I think adding Southdale as a fourth neighborhood makes complete sense. Number three, again, I would recommend broadening the scope of the committee to not just the grant program, but other things that are very specifically H&I things. And we'll talk about more about what those are. And then number four, we do have some advisory or what I'll call subcommittees in the city. I would recommend this be a standalone committee. I think it warrants that. And number five, I've been with the H&I since the get-go, and I think it makes sense to really keep planning department, which is where I'm from, as staff liaison to this committee. So those are the kind of my recommendations. And just in terms of how this stuff gets written, because basically what happens is this will get written into city ordinance, and then it becomes city law, so to speak. So right now, the current personnel and current scope, that's what our current, or I think that's kind of what is maybe not an ordinance, but it's kind of our regulating language right now. What I am proposing is some tweaks to that language based on my recommendation. So proposed personnel, I would, again, per the broader scope, per us getting Southdale as a neighborhood, I would propose a 7-member committee. That's what a lot of our committees are in the city. We have 7 members, so again, it just makes sense that we kind of follow that those numbers. And basically what I would propose is adding, again, the 4th neighborhood. So the idea would be the 6th member would come from the Southdale neighborhood, either living or working in that neighborhood. And then the 7th member, I'm proposing 1 at-large member that resides in the city but not in a priority neighborhood. Now, to me, that's a somewhat strategic approach. I think you can really broaden the appeal of this committee. I get a lot of interest from folks that don't live in priority neighborhoods that say, how can I help out with the H&I? So I think there's a real interest in our city in furthering the H&I, and I think by proposing an at-large member, you really broaden this to a citywide committee. Furthermore, I think by doing that, you're also going outside the H&I districts, and by doing so, you're hopefully creating some council allies that have folks from their district on this committee as well. So I think I see some political and strategic value in having an at-large member, not from a priority neighborhood. Certainly, this will be the committee's decision, but I just want you to understand my thought process. And then proposed scope. Really, I'm kind of rewriting the scope, basically saying that this committee shall oversee the H&I as identified in the strategic plan action items, which were adopted by council, and there's about 15 action items that are very specific in terms of what this committee would oversee. And then I basically just kind of expound on what those action items are and what I see as the major tasks of the H&I, which is to, funding our neighborhood partners, basically our grant program, and then building and maintaining those relationships, whether it's through grant programs or other partnership, activities. And then community engagement and programming, which I really view as kind of the navigator silo of, really, but also it's broad enough to encompass a lot of other things that could happen under that umbrella of engagement and programming. And then the third piece is, again, kind of that facility planning. So when we talk about our neighborhoods and our built environments, community facilities, the hub is a great example. The teen center is another really good example. So that's kind of what that piece, gets at. And then just kind of the capper here, and I did mention it, but any changes to the committee as identified in what I just spent 5 minutes talking about would be subject to council approval via ordinance. So with that, again, just staff ideas. Certainly the committee can go in your own direction on this, but those are some thoughts that I've had, so.
Go ahead, Julia.
So I think it's a great idea that it's time to move forward with an standing committee. So I am full support. One thing is I will change the name of the committee. I will say the Healthy Neighborhood Committee. I will remove the grant review because the grant review is going to be one of the action that we are going to do, but we are talking about to accomplish more stuff than in this committee, or discuss or be involved in other areas in those neighborhoods beside the grant. So that one is, and then I will add some component of the proposed scope about housing, how, because, how we can incorporate we also wanna, most of this area, they are lacking of housing and ownership and workforce housing or affordable housing, how we can incorporate that language here. I don't know how to do it, but I was thinking about, I was thinking because I am the CEDA representative, and in CEDA we discussed the other day the rent to own pilot that we are working. And one of the areas that where we want to do that, one of the area in the survey, it was located north of Fish Hatching Road. You know what I mean? So it's in one of these neighborhoods. So I don't know, Wade, it's something that you know more about that,
No,
but I will add that language too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if we are discussing something, is a park is coming to one of our neighborhood, it should come through our commission to discussion.
Yep.
If
Yeah,
we are
no,
adding a bike path, it should come to, if we are talking about tree, and it's gonna plant more tree in this neighborhood, it should come to our committee to discussion, We
Yep.
should have a say in a lot of topics,
Yep.
In this neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree. To your first point, yeah, I made a mistake. I agree with the name change. It shouldn't have grant review in it. It should have just Healthy Neighborhoods Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely agree with that. To your second point, yeah, again, I think the text really kind of creates this big umbrella for the H&I, which, we talk about in the strategic plan. But to your point about housing, I did really think about that as maybe another piece of the puzzle that we want to specifically call out. To that point, we do have a housing advisory committee, so I didn't want to overstep the committee's boundaries, but I would agree. I think there needs to be we somehow need to think about that idea. But yeah, to your broader point, I think anything that's of significant importance in an H&I neighborhood should, kind of run through this committee at some level. And that's what I tried to create with my proposed scope. So, yep.
And the other thing is, if we are all in favor to create this and move forward, I think it goes to personnel committee for creation of a commission, isn't it? And then it goes to council, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never been a part of creating a committee, so you probably know more than I do. But backing up, does the committee, well, maybe let's hold on to the process till the end of the discussion.
Okay.
because I'll have some questions for you guys. But then, yeah, maybe back to just like the content or ideas. Any other thoughts?
I'm, yeah, I support all of the proposals. Is that, so the 7 members, is that up to you, Wade, to find those members then?
So what happens with all our committees is, people submit applications if you meet the criteria. And then, and certainly there can be, outreach to get folks to apply. I mean, I know that that's done. But the decisions are, I think, well, the mayor makes recommendations, I believe. Julia, help me out, and then the council approves. Is that the way it happens, Julia?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay,
So it'd be a,
okay, so it's, yeah, so it's a more formalized process then,
Yep.
I see.
yeah, so you guys were all
Okay.
ad hoc members, so I think it was a little bit looser. But, and there are cases where folks don't get approved. There is a level of politics involved sometimes, but, I would say that's maybe the exception and not the norm, so.
So we would all be, if this goes through, we would all just be grandfathered in?
I would expect
Yes.
so, yep.
Okay.
My question is, did you get paid, guys, to attend this meeting? Okay, because members of the commission and committee, they get paid like a stipend, I think it's $25 per meeting, something like that. You can waive that, but this is why also it's gonna go through finance, because it's gonna have an impact in the budget, because we need to determine the frequency of the meeting too, okay? And then if all of the members said, no, we don't want to get waived, but we need to allocate that, how many meetings a year, how many members, multiplied by $25, I think, I don't know, remember.
Yeah.
And then this is a budgetary item, so that one, this is what, if we move forward, it's gonna go to finance for approval too.
Yep. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so ad hoc committees don't get a per diem, but standing
Yeah,
committees
per
do
diem, yes.
get one, yep. And then again, just so folks are we're all clear on expectations, I envision, again, hopefully this, I try to keep committee commitments to a minimum, and I try to, get you guys all the information you need in an efficient and timely manner. And, if these changes go through and the committee does expand, I could foresee maybe an additional meeting a year, two at the most. But I think normally, so some committees meet twice a month, which we won't. Some meet once a month, which I don't think we will. And then some meet like eight meetings a year or as needed. I see something along those lines, 4 to 6 meetings. So I'll just throw that out there in terms of, commitments moving forward, so. And right now, I think we do about 4 meetings a year, so, yeah.
I'm fully supportive. I stand behind Julia and Ryan's decision. I think the name change, definitely we should move forward with. The going from 5 to 7, I'm down with. But I think you guys already know kind of my stance, as I brought it before you guys before. I mean, we were struggling to sit at 5 for a while. So I mean, the application process sounds good, opening it up, and I like the approach. If we can get 7, I think we should definitely run with it. But I think we also need to make sure that we keep it clear what the commitment level is going to look like for those coming in, just so that we're not, every time that we log into one of these meetings or coming to sit around the round table, we're not always introducing somebody new because somebody couldn't for whatever reason. As well as, does this now change defining roles? Is Ryan then going to still hold presidency and we're going to continue to move forward that way? Or does the dynamic then switch where we've got to do things with elections? Or, I mean, how does it look in a broad scheme for those that are already here that are getting grandfathered in?
Those are all good questions. I think in terms of just getting folks on the committee, I think, I wasn't quite clear when it was an ad hoc what my role was to try to find members. And I just, honestly, I didn't spend a whole lot of time doing that and just didn't have time to. And I think with the standing committee, I think I'm confident that we'll get members and we'll keep them. The turnover will not be, it won't be big. So I'm confident about that. I believe chairs and I believe it's like 2-year terms. And you can serve, I think you can serve consecutive terms as like chair and vice chair, but there is maybe it's like a 4-year limit. So yeah, there would be some potential shuffling, and that's all subject to a committee majority vote. But those are all things that I think just make for good committee structure, good formalization of things, sharing of duties, sharing of responsibility. So those are all things that I look forward to kind of working through. So yeah.
So can I add, so we have a lot of people interested in participating in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, believe it or not. So people, maybe it's gonna be, we need to start outreaching in the Southdale neighborhood because it's an area new that maybe, but I will tell you that when Emily was appointed, we have other people that they apply to, So I think we are not going to have problem to get people to the committee. I forgot what I was planning to say. Oh, another thing. I forgot. It's going to come. But that one, regarding the chair and the vice chair, the committee, one is when we have our first formal meeting, as an standing committee, we can select our chair and vice chair. And, if we want Ryan and Nate continue to be in the same role, it's fine with me, Alders cannot be chairs, okay? So, myself and Jay Allen, we cannot be chair of the committee or vice chair. So it's going to be like more residents are going to be taking those positions. So, so
Yeah, and I
we
think
don't need to change too many things,
Yeah, and again, I don't know logistically, but we'd probably wipe the slate clean, meaning like, Ryan and Nate have served, but I think once we become a standing committee, we start at kind of year 0 and move forward. So if you both want to continue as chair and vice chair, I think for and you get elected as such, I think you would have a full run ahead of you. So, yep.
I had a point of clarification. So would this new committee look at everything that was planned for, the 4 neighborhoods that will eventually be, helping oversee, or are we just going to be focusing in on the HNI aspects of it? Because I could see like Plan Commission like meets every month, and so like if there's something in one of the neighborhoods that comes before that, are we going to try and make sure that we meet so that we can then impact their decisions, etc.?
Well, yeah, Emily, so basically in the, good question. So basically my proposed scope change, I very clearly call out as identified in the strategic plan's action items. So I would encourage folks to maybe after the meeting, just to kind of look through those items, and they're very specific, in terms of what the HNI is all about. So I think it would be limited to those things. So, just because there's a development in an HNI neighborhood that goes to Plan Commission, I don't see that coming to this committee unless there was a real unique aspect to it that, you know what I mean? Like it was some
If
sort
it
of,
was affordable housing,
yeah, some
we
sort
would
of,
probably look at
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think we can, and again, just me being familiar with the HNI and kind of helping move the vision along, I think I have a real good understanding of what is relevant to this committee and what maybe isn't. So, and then what happens too is, so we have a referral process at the city, things get referred out to different committees from our council, and staff usually puts those referral sheets together. And if staff doesn't include the HNI on something and a council member thinks the HNI should be included, the council members have a right to include HNI on that.
Yeah.
But I guess to your broader point about, is it going to create an undue amount of meetings for HNI? I don't think so. So.
Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering what like our overall scope was, because I could see it being, narrow and like focused on the strategic plan and what's in there, or being very, very broad.
Yeah.
So,
And and before this goes to anyone in terms of like a formal presentation, I will probably think that through again and just go back and double check and make sure, we've got a broad yet refined focus, if that makes sense. I mean, something that, again, really reflects the H&I's intent, so.
Makes sense.
Julia, you had something?
Me?
Are you gonna say
No.
something? Yeah. Yep, you.
Me? No, I was thinking that, so we decided that at least 4 meetings a year or 6 meetings? What it was?
Well, I think right now we've done 4.
4, okay.
You know, I don't know. So just, let's use like the hub and the teen center as examples.
Yeah,
You know, I think those are big projects that
and they're coming.
if I had a committee to take them to specifically, I'd probably take them to on a few different things. So, you know, realistically, I could see maybe 6 meetings a year.
Okay,
I guess I would say anywhere from 4 to 8. You know, depending on, just to give you guys a true estimate, you know, maybe somewhere in the middle of that.
I would say 6.
Yeah.
We're gonna start organically and then we, you know what I mean?
Yeah, every 2 months probably is, and, you know, or as needed, you know, because certainly I have committees where, you know, we have 8 scheduled, but
Yeah,
I only have 6 a year because we just don't have stuff to talk about, so. And again, you know, if I remain the contact for this, you know, I try to do my best to, you know, really be good with lumping stuff together and not, you know, not having a meeting every month because I forgot to include something last month, so. Yep.
because, okay, so we need a motion.
Well,
All
just one quick clarification. So do folks like this idea of an at-large member, or is there any thoughts on that being something else?
Are you asking about it being an ad hoc committee or a
No, I'm just
standing
saying,
committee?
so we have 5 members right now. The 6th would be a person that lives or works in Southdale. The 7th person I'm proposing would be a at-large member from a non-H&I neighborhood that lives in the city. Do folks like that idea?
Go ahead, Joy.
We need to be an odd number for voting, so, you know, so we need to be 7, okay?
Right. So what I'm
So
saying is Alder rep, which we currently have, CETA rep, which we currently have, 4 neighborhood reps. We now only have 3, so that gets us to 6.
Yeah.
Then I'm saying the 7th person would be a city resident that doesn't live in an H&I neighborhood. So like,
What about if we are flexible, because in case that we don't have a person from that, we say that it could be from a no priority neighborhood or
just,
a priority neighborhood. You know, we got flexibility in case that
yep.
we don't have candidate for the, you know what I mean?
So basically just a city resident at large.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I will do that.
That sounds good.
I'm
Okay.
aligned with that.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so just to clarify, folks are okay with kind of my 5 recommendations. You're okay with 7 members with the composition we just discussed. And then with the scope, we'll change the name. And then we'll just really clarify what the committee oversees. I'll do a little bit more homework on that. Maybe tweak a few words, add a few words. But yeah, so again, if folks are agreeable to that, I think a motion. Well, actually, one more thing. I'd like to talk process. So assuming the committee, you know, makes a motion and approves those recommended changes, my thought was to take that to that July council meeting that I talked about earlier for a presentation, to present it there as an informational item. And then let the council know that it will be coming back to them, you know, via the normal city channels. approvals. So that's one option, or another option would be just to go, the internal staff route and then work through the committees and then get it to council for a decision.
The next personnel committee meeting is July 14, and we cannot have it in the agenda because it was not referred out, but maybe we can have a discussion, no vote, you know what I mean? So,
Sure.
And then the next, we have only one council meeting in July. So our next council meeting is July 27. So, and then if we need to refer out this, or it had to be a direct referral, so it's in finance committee meeting that night, the 27th, and council that night. Or you need to refer for, I think it had to go to, or you put it in the consent agenda or on July 27, and then it goes to the first meeting in August.
Okay.
To referral to finance and council, and then we can discuss this in personnel committee in July 14, but we cannot vote on because it wasn't no refer out.
Okay, so Julie, what I'm hearing you propose is July 14th personnel informational item,
Yeah,
and then a formal referral at the last July council meeting?
the July 27, and then it's
Okay.
gonna go refer to the first meeting in August for finance and council,
Okay, so,
and then vote there.
okay,
Yeah,
so
that was
no,
the big-
no discussion of it at the cow presentation?
You can mention what is coming because we are gonna see it in the
Okay.
consent agenda, so that one would be a great topic of discussion for you.
Okay.
And say, you see, yesterday in the consent agenda,
Mm-hmm.
we are, so we want to formalize this committee, and you say why, blah, blah, blah. So council members, when they go to August, and say, okay, they have that fresh in their memory.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I know other folks aren't maybe as up on city process as Julie is, but does that sound agreeable to a lot of just inner workings of process, but I from a staff perspective, that sounds really, really good to me, so,
Sounds good to me.
okay. Okay, Julia, are you on personnel?
Yeah, I am the chair of
Okay,
personnel. Yeah,
so I'll connect with Sarah staffs that, I assume?
yeah.
Okay, I'll connect with her for the July 14th meeting, and then I'll prepare a
Okay.
referral as well.
Okay.
Okay. And then, yeah, I guess, Ryan,
right.
if committee wants to make a motion on the
Yeah.
changes.
Someone wanna make a motion on the potential committee personnel and scope changes?
Emily.
You want me to make the motion? I can do that. All right. I motion to accept the proposed personnel and scope changes as discussed. Do you want me to outline them? Would that be helpful, or are we good?
Unless people need, I'm clear, unless anyone else needs clarification.
Yeah.
All
No, I
right,
think you're
I think we're good. All right, can I have a second? Julia?
Second.
Me? I second.
All right, we're gonna start calling out people now.
All right,
All right.
everyone
sounds
in
good.
favor?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, changes approved.
All right,
All right. Next item on the agenda, 5E, other H&I updates.
yeah, and again, these are the kind of things that I think, we'll talk more about as, if and when the committee does expand. But again, just kind of getting you guys, I'm anticipating a committee expansion, so I just kind of want to keep you guys up to speed on what's, what you will eventually be reviewing as well. And I'm just trying to find there we go. So yeah, just quickly, Neighborhood Navigators, I think folks generally know what that program's about. We did lose Elizabeth. My understanding is she went on to a better job in the field. So that actually is kind of a goal of the program as well, is to build folks' skill sets and they can move on to bigger and better things. And I think that happened there. So certainly sad that she left, but glad that she's moved on to bigger and better things. So we are currently looking to replace her. There is a job announcement out there. Truth be told, I don't think we're getting a lot of applicants. You know, it is kind of a tricky position. It's part-time. It doesn't pay very well. There's some residency requirements. So I envision we're probably going to have to reopen it. I'll find more out about that later this week. But if I do reopen it, I will probably let you all know that it's reopened, and would certainly appreciate any efforts or thoughts you have on getting it to folks that might be interested in applying for that position. So, and then I guess in terms of, you know, Carmen, our remaining navigator, she's plugging away, doing a lot of work with our JFF office in North Fish Hats, our social workers up there, in terms of housing placement for neighborhood residents. And actually her and Sed, our intern who you just met, are working with City of Madison and other Fitchburg staff to bring back the programming at Leopold Park in North Fishhatchee Road area. So that was programming that the city's outreach librarian started a few years ago. She has since left the city. That position was reallocated. So now there's no one really to pick up that slack in terms of programming. So Sed and Carmen have been working again with City of Madison to make sure that programming happens this year. It didn't happen last year because of COVID, so now we're gonna try again. So I think we're thinking weekly programming. I think it's like Tuesday nights, 6 to 8 weeks. I think running from mid-July through just before school starts. So Sed, yeah, if you want to chime in on any of that.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, just to speak to that, you know, it'll be a variety of different events, community stakeholders that will be there. The first event is actually on July 13th. So we're looking to distribute some materials for that pretty soon. You know, we have our flyer created and just have to figure out a few more logistical pieces. And then with that, like Wade was saying, you know, over a series of several weeks going all the way up through August, you know, we'll have a number of events. I believe it's 6, somewhere between 6 and 8 events that we'll be doing in that neighborhood. So of course, obviously, you know, everybody's welcome. And if anybody has any information or connections to potentially have like tables or anything in that at those events, you know, feel free to reach my email or Wade, he'll forward it to me. Yeah. If there's any questions on that also, you know, feel free to.
Yeah. Are the events around literacy, or what type of events are they?
Sure. So part of it, I mean, and this is, since it's developing, you know, this is of course something that you know, the group that we have, Leopold neighborhood planning for the community events, it's something that we'd be willing to discuss. It doesn't necessarily have a theme at the moment. More so, we're just we want to get the programming out there, you know, just because there's not much else going on. I'll say that.
Gotcha.
Just to pick up on that, really, you know, Emily, it's just about getting the neighborhood together to socialize and meet their neighbors. And, you know, I think I would call it rec focused.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, if there's ways you know, if folks again have ideas about other structured elements, yeah, I mean, I think that'd be, like Sed says, you know, they're in the early stages, so certainly any ideas are welcome. All right, so yeah, that's the navigator update. The hub up in the same neighborhood, I just want to give folks a quick overview. We're still plugging away on that. We have a desired final design consultant that will basically take our hub concept, which I think you all have seen, and then take it to the level of construction ready documents. So we're working on those contract terms. We hope to get that contract before council by the end of the month here, and then hopefully an approval in August. And then once that contract's approved, we will start working with that consultant to do that final design. The final design in my head will be a lot of engagement. So really getting back out in the neighborhood and saying, okay, we got this concept, help us, you know, make these final tweaks to really make this hub a neighborhood and a community project. So that'll probably take us through early next year. I envision enlisting the navigators and Sed on helping us do some of that that engagement with the neighborhood. You know, I could see it even happening at some of this programming that we've just discussed. And then again, early next year, we'll have that final design. We will then put out for what we call construction bids. And then hopefully spring of next year, we will be breaking ground on the north side of the hub, or phase one of the hub, north side of Traceway Drive to, you know, follow that final design. And then construction season will probably take a year or so. So we might go into 2023 to finalize construction, but I would say, you know, roughly a year plus from now, there should look a lot different up there, and I think we'll really serve that neighborhood and the community well. So, yeah, looking forward to that. So, any questions or comments on the hub?
I am glad that it's coming. We are seeing the light.
Yeah, I should
excited,
mention, I
yeah.
have had my head down working on multiple grant applications. I think I've got 2 into the feds, I've got 1 into the state, 1 into the county. We're gonna get 1 into a nonprofit. And then I'm actually another 1 to the county. I'm working on the CDBG this week. So yeah, lots of grants that we're seeking, and if we get those grants, we'll be able to put some of the city budgeted money back into the city coffers. So we'll see how that shakes out.
No, they have phase 2.
I'll just nod my head, Julia, okay. But no, I think we'll be competitive for grants, and we've gotten good feedback thus far, and I hope we can bring some money to the project, so.
And I want to thank you, Wade, because I have seen some of those grants running through council approval, and I think, you know, that you're doing a great job looking for all opportunity out there to collect the funds, you know what I mean? So thank you.
But, and then just quickly, one last update on the teen center. Again, I think the committee knows what that's all about, but basically, Alder Maldonado had proposed the idea of a teen center in the Verona Road West neighborhood. Kind of went back and forth a little bit with process, but now we've got kind of an approved phase 1, which would basically be a community engagement process in that neighborhood to really figure out, you know, what are the needs and wants and the assets in that neighborhood. And then that study will help inform potential location and design construction of a potential facility. So, yeah, I'm kind of overseeing that project from a staff perspective. I did just put out an RFP about a week and a half ago for a consultant to do that engagement. So that RFP will close, I believe, July 12th. Hopefully we'll get a lot of good proposals. We'll review those, and then we will, you know, pick a desired consultant and then work through the contract. And hopefully by, let's say, early fall this year, we'll have that consultant on board, and then they will start that engagement process per the RFP and per their proposal. And that I envision that going through early next year. And then again, that's the sort of thing that if the H&I committee does get expanded, that sort of thing will be, you know, kind of under your wheelhouse. So, so yeah, lots of big stuff going on in the H&I neighborhood. So.
Any questions for Wade? All right. Next item on the agenda, report from the department. Anything?
Yeah, I just again want to reiterate July 28th, committee of the whole meeting. I will be presenting to the council on the H&I annual report. I will send out invites to you all. Feel free to attend if you'd like. You can watch it later as well on the internet. But yeah, just FYI.
Okay. I have a question. Do you know if meetings like this are gonna be, if there will still be the opportunity to join via Zoom, or I know the mayor said until the end of August.
Yeah. Yep. I was just talking to our staff our TV staff about that. And I think Zoom is here to stay, Ryan, if you know what I mean. I mean, I think, yeah, and I think everyone that has made a career out of these types of, or has chosen the careers we've chosen appreciates that. So yeah, I think that'll be an option. Moving forward, I think we're just trying to figure out logistically how that, you know, we're kind of temporary Zoom, but how do we transition into permanent Zoom? So we will, I'll pass on details as I'm made aware of them, so.
Okay, thanks, Wade. That helps clarify things. Okay, any announcements? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Nate, I'm gonna call on you. I'm just kidding. Anyone?
Bueller. Awesome meeting, everybody. I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Wade.
Thanks, everybody.